You've probably been told that when it comes to something like cancer, there's really only one path forward. But what happens when that path doesn't feel aligned or doesn't feel like what God's asking you to do? In today's episode, Kathy shares her powerful testimony of choosing a path rooted in faith, natural healing, and learning to trust her body instead of fear. If you've ever felt unsure of what to do next or question whether there might be another way for your healing, this episode is for you. Welcome to Faith Over Pharma, the podcast for women who want a different way to heal. I'm Susan Gladstein, holistic health practitioner and functional nutrition specialist, and here we explore faith-led, holistic approaches to hormones, energy, and symptoms that just keep getting brushed off. If that's you, you're in the right place. Have you been craving a true reset? Not another trip where you're still managing everyone else's needs, but a space where you are the one being cared for. The Rooted Reset Retreat is a 5-night women's retreat in Costa Rica designed for the woman who knows the value of stepping away, but rarely gives herself permission to fully receive. From the moment you arrive, you'll be welcomed into a peaceful, beautiful space where nourishing chef-prepared meals, intentional rest, time in nature, faith-filled connection, and holistic support are already planned for you. You don't have to figure out all the details. You don't have to hold it all together. You simply get to arrive, exhale, and let your body, mind, and spirit be supported. If you're ready to be poured into for once, come join us in Costa Rica, July 27th through August 1st. You can reserve your spot at rootedresetretreat.com. I am very excited about today's conversation because I think it's a good reminder that not just everything that has to do with healing has to do about what we eat. Although I know my friend Kathy here of Faithful Under Fire has an amazing story with a baseline in nutrition since she was a child, which I think is such a gift that a lot of people are not given. We spend a lot of time trying to correct things that or unlearn things that maybe we were taught. I mean, I grew up in the TV dinners era, so there is that. But Kathy has been creating organic soaps and bath products for nearly a decade. And I'm excited about talking more about natural living, cleaner products, why all of this matters more than we realize. And obviously, she has a very amazing healing testimony that I am excited for her to share. So thank you so much for being here. And let's just kind of dive right in.
Yeah,
Let
let's
me
do it.
know, I would love for you to sort of just tell us about yourself and where it all began, if you will.
Okay. Well, so I was, born and raised in the South, and our grandparents opened a nutritional organic health food, healthy living food store when I believe it was the mid 70s, maybe late 70s. And as kids, my brothers and I, we grew up in the health food store. Um, when we were younger, we'd watch out for people who were stealing. And then as we got older, we were doing stock and making orders and running the cash register, things like that. But we really had a great foundation for nutrition and eating healthy, eating the right things and taking your supplements and hydrating and different things to make sure that your body is at its best and not overindulging or even really indulging a lot in junk foods and candies and things of that nature. So uh we did that, and after a few decades they sold it and passed away. But as I became into my own adulthood and began having the options to make my own choices, I didn't make those healthy choices. I chose to overindulge in a lot of things that were not healthy for me, mainly food. That was something I've always loved. I'm an absolute foodie, which is not a bad thing as long as, it's healthier food. So for a few years, I was in a really bad place, health-wise, and I had a lot of issues from essentially trashing my body and disrespecting what God had put onto this earth. And so it took a few years to realize that I had done that to myself and that I knew better. And when you know better, you do better, usually. So it took a few years. When I think I was about 31 or 32, I found out I had stomach cancer. And that was a bit of a challenge because at the time I had a young child and my health wasn't where I wanted it to be, and I had to figure out if I wanted to do chemo, if I wanted to do it naturally. And so I chose to do it naturally, which, I'm very, very appreciative that I did. And so I've been cancer free since 2012, and I've chosen to, go back to my roots, if you will, in choosing to eat healthier foods. And we also have I have a daughter, she's 8 years old. We found out almost 2 years ago she is deathly allergic to soy and nuts and gluten and shellfish, so which is pretty much everything in all ingredients in all foods. So my husband has his culinary arts degree. So it's been a huge, huge blessing because he has been able to flex as I customize and make the recipes flexible for her to eat and friendly so that she is not feeling left out. Because, when you go to a party or someplace, you can't eat it because it's got soy lecithin in it and everything has such crazy ingredients. So we have, as a family, we have chosen to, eat more organic things and healthier things. And for me, that's been great because I have lost a ton of weight from doing so, almost 100 pounds. So yeah. And, but yeah, it's been a journey. I will definitely say that it's been a journey, and I am so thankful that I've been able to be introduced to different modalities of living and healing and be able to really implement that into my life every single moment of my day and be able to share that with people and give other people hope
Yes.
that
I love that hope piece because I think when you're given something like a cancer diagnosis, especially stomach cancer, I would think that, I mean, there's so many things that go into your mind. There's a lot of pressure, I imagine, from your family. Speaking from other people that I've talked to, when you get that diagnosis, not everybody agrees with the holistic route. Not everyone agrees with the conventional mainstream medicine
yeah.
route. And so, as someone who's trying to navigate that, doing what's best for you, I think there's a lot of fear that comes up in that, whether it's yourself. I always think it's just the devil, just whispering these things in your head. And I'm curious how that season was for you and how you overcame all of that.
I did, and a lot of people. I actually had some friends, and I say had because we've gone our separate ways in the meantime. But um, a couple of friends who really looked down on me for choosing to go the natural way. And my response to that was, what did we do back in the older days? We didn't have modern medicine. We didn't have capsules and tablets that we could just go to the pharmacy and pick up. No, we had to do it low and slow. And and it's okay. I'm okay with people disagreeing with me because to each their own, and whatever they feel works for them is what works. So for me, that's what I wanted to do. And there weren't a lot of people I shared it with just because at that time, a lot of the people I associated with were more of um, the, let's run to the doctor and have a doctor prescribe you something or run get a shot or, there's a pill for every ill. So, and that was really the mindset back then, but it's definitely changed. So, for the better. So my circle of friends has definitely changed, and I love that for being able to, um, inspire and encourage others and tell them, hey, listen, life is going to get better. Even though you have this ailment or this challenge that you're facing right now, you're going to be able to overcome that. And and for some people it's they look at you like you have three heads. And I'm like, no, it's true. God placed us on this earth for a reason, and there is always an answer for whatever issue there is. There's always a solution. So, that's the mindset I try to keep with me every day when I speak to people and even to myself, because sometimes we can be hard on ourselves and we have to bring ourselves back up out of those little pits because some days, it's a challenge.
It most certainly is. And I appreciate that you talk about like there is something for everyone. And I get a lot of, I got my first like negative, 1-star review on my podcast when I changed the name of it to Faith Over Pharma. But my whole goal is to help people realize that the mainstream model isn't the only thing. There are amazing, I have 4 babies thanks to a C-section and medical intervention. And
Yeah.
so I I want to come across with the heart of there are other options, and ultimately you have to decide within your heart and walking in faith with God on what your next best step was. We went through that same thing in even having our third C-section, because it was kind of like, well, do I go this other route and try to have natural? And my husband and I just went back and forth on it, and we're like, well, we just feel more confident in this path that we know. And there's a lot of people like, well, how are you a holistic person? And, you're not giving birth at home. Well, in the state of Arizona, if you've had 2 C-sections, it's a whole other bag of tricks with the law as far as that goes. But what would you say to someone who's maybe like stuck? They've been labeled, they have a lot of criticism from other people. What would you advise them to do in taking like hold of their health and being their own champion?
That's an interesting question because I actually had this almost identical conversation with someone a few weeks ago, and they said, well, I don't want to try something new because my doctor told me not to. And I said, okay. I said, when was the last time you had let an adult tell you what to do? Because you are an adult, you can make your own decisions. And they said, well, I do make my own decisions, but I'm afraid. And I said, what are you afraid of? I said, and I asked them, I said, are you afraid of healing? Are you afraid of living life younger, healthier, more energized, and better with a quality, a higher quality of life? And they have some pretty serious health issues, and the health issues are correctable. But I said, what are you afraid of? And oh, I'm not afraid of anything. I said, then try something new, try something different, because you were willing to try what your doctor subscribe prescribed, so not subscribed, prescribed and suggested. And I said, so why not try something different? And they said, okay. And I said, what's going to happen? And so they had a new mindset, because I have always thrived on encouraging others and doing my best to be a light to others in their lives, and to, even if it just means meeting a random stranger and getting them to smile for that day, or giving a random stranger a hug. That's always been my motto, and the way that I do my days every day. So when someone is pushing back, then I do my best to push back gently, but lovingly, and to remind them there's always a different option. And so yeah, that's definitely what I encourage everybody to do. So and it works out for the better usually. And but yeah.
100%. And I think sometimes it is hard to do things that are uncomfortable. I mean, that's how our brains are wired, is to keep us safe. And so something that's not going to feel safe feels uncomfortable, right? And so trying something new, something different, something against the norm, especially if you get pushback from others, that's a whole other level of having to justify. And I mean, you may be confident in your decisions, but to justify it to someone else who isn't in alignment with you is a whole other
Yeah.
ballgame. I'm sure you've experienced that in your throughout your life.
Oh yeah. For sure.
But if someone's listening and they feel sort of disconnected from their body or discouraged in their health journey, what would you say to them?
Oh, oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. When they're feeling discouraged, honestly, I have encouraged many of my own friends to say, you know what, meditate, block everything out. And I do this for myself. I've done this numerous times. Block it all out and really, really, really have a one-on-one conversation with God to where nobody else is translating for you. And there's no TVs, there's no phones, electronics, books, kids, dogs, you name it. And really just sit with yourself in silence and wait for that answer from God, because ask God for an answer, ask him for a solution, and ask for the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to know when he's speaking to you. And that was something that I had to learn myself because I was so busy every day. I wasn't stopping to listen for those responses. So when people are telling me that they are stuck, a lot of times I will say you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. And I mean, I've got little picture frames and shirts and everything all over my house that says keep moving forward. So constantly be looking for that answer. And if you feel stuck, try something different, because that's usually what's going to get you out of that rut is trying something new, trying something different. Yes, I'm not going to lie. It is intimidating. It is scary at times. It is terrifying, but in the end, it is so worth it.
I love that. And I want you, if you can, share with us what was the thing that you tried that was different that worked for you.
So I was introduced to LifeWave patches um back March of 2025. And I'm not even gonna lie about this. I was so skeptical. I was incredibly skeptical. I'm like, how could a little patch make my body, give my body and support my energy? How can a little patch help my cells at on a cellular level, my stem cells, my peptides? How could this work? It's a sticker, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, okay. So, and I kid you not, I left these patches on my dresser for the entire summer, and over the summer I tried them out. I was given Life Wave at for I'm sorry, Ice Wave patches because I have a broken coccyx and many, many car accidents. I've been in 16 car accidents. So I have a lot of things that are physically wrong with me with arthritis and all kinds of things. But sticking these on, I was able to move and bend and sit and do things I wasn't able to do before. And I thought, okay, this has got to be, um, hogwash. So I tried it again a couple of weeks later, same thing happened. So I tried it over, 4 times over the period of the summer, and I thought this is really cool. So August was the conference in Orlando, and I went over there to just kind of get a feel for things and met a few people, Renita and Scott, and all the amazing people. And I thought, that let me try this out. So I ordered every single patch that I could that I thought I would need, and from then I've been hooked. Um, and they have helped me so tremendously with my energy, like to stick one on and be able and know that I got 3 hours of sleep the night before, and I'm able to go out and do a full day of work and focus and have that mental clarity instead of the brain fog that I normally would have. So for me, that has been an answer to prayers that I have had for years because I didn't share this, but for many, many years, I was on a slew of medications. And as many people know, one medication causes another side effect. You get another medication to offload that one. And I was on so many medications, and I said, God, I am so tired of being on, all these medications. I'm tired of the side effects. I'm just tired. And so being able to quit those cold turkey and not be on any of them has been quite an experience, especially for my primary care doctor. They they looked at me like I had three heads, and she was quite shocked that I actually requested a letter stating that I was not under their care for any kind of ailment. And it took a while to get because they didn't want to give it to me, but I got it. So that was pretty monumental in my opinion. But it's been a huge blessing and it's been a godsend. And I absolutely am grateful, thankful to infinity to be able to utilize something that is natural and something that supports my health without needing to go to a doctor and knowing that it's not going to give me side effects. And that has been the hugest thing for me because that was literally for me, it's going back to my basics. That's going back to my roots. So yeah, this is a God thing for me, and I'm so for it. I'm so on board.
I love it. I think that it is so simple that it is. I don't know why. I don't know why something so simple and so natural. I think we've been trained to question that. We don't question the medication we're given, the pill that we're given that comes with a laundry list of side effects or a, black box warning. We are taught not to question that, but the natural thing, oh, I need to see the science on that. I need to see the
Mhm.
science on that. And what I can tell you from personal experience is like I don't know how it works, but it works. It's like the blind man
Yeah,
when he encountered Jesus and they wanted to know, how are you able to see? How are you able to see? I don't know. I just
yeah,
can.
you just
And
can.
that's pretty incredible. And I think in the same way that stories from the Bible and the miracles that Jesus performed is so like mind blowing that it's hard to believe that it's true. But if you believe that the Bible is true and you believe that Jesus died for you and you were already healed. You don't have to identify as your diagnosis or what the doctor says.
That's right.
Would you
That is so
agree?
totally right. Oh yeah, it's not your identity, and I truly do my best to encourage others the same thing because I really feel and I some people may disagree with me on this, but I feel that when individuals put all of their faith in a medical doctor, I do my best to remind them that a medical doctor is practicing, which means they're still learning. And not every single person in the world is the same. However, when you're able to find something that applies to every single demographic in the world, no matter what your age, no matter what the color of your skin is, what your health issues are, how tall or skinny, it does not matter. When you're able to create something that applies to every single demographic, that is the most amazing uh, blessing that you can get. And so to encourage others to not have that kind of faith in the in the medicine world is daunting because you really have to have a strong backbone and be prepared to have that thick skin for people to come back at you and say, well, I was a doctor for 8 years. I was in school for 12 years. I did this, this, and this. Yes, but you're still practicing. You don't know all of it. And when you see all these medical malpractice lawsuits, then that puts me in a mindset of they they don't have all of the answers. And in my opinion, I would rather trust something that's 5,000 years old. Traditional Chinese medicine is, 3,005, it's thousands of years old. It's not 200 years old. So um, would I rather go with something that's been around for ages and ages and tried and true and proven, or something that they push through the FDA and, oh, it's safe? Like, no, definitely not.
I do think that COVID has opened up a lot of people's eyes to something that's considered safe and effective may not necessarily be safe and effective. So, um, I can understand. I mean that was a trying time for so many people, and there was so much pressure to follow the norm and just do what you're told and not taking into account your own personal biology, your faith, your beliefs, or any of those things. I mean, I fought that in the military. Um, but how would you say that your journey and even the experience that you've had with patches has changed the way you live now, the way you care for your body, and the way that and you touched on this a little bit, the way you encourage others?
The way that I look at that now is, and well, I will also preface it with this has to do a lot with boundaries and healing and becoming at peace with yourself and with everything that's going on in the world. And for me, realizing that I I wanted to choose a better life for myself. And so between my faith and the medications that I was on and the patches that I have been introduced to and use on an everyday basis, that has been a blessing because I choose what I do with my body. I choose what I do with my health, what I put into my mouth. And and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this quote, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put into your body is what's going to come out. And whatever you put into your mind and into your heart is going to come out the same way. So if you're thinking negative thoughts, you're going to speak negatively. And with the transformation of everything that's gone in my life, with my journey with health and just life in general, I've chosen to um, live positively and attract that energy and attract that frequency from other places and other people. And so my new goal, if you will, is to encourage everyone that I meet to choose positively and think of something positive, make a negative into a positive every day. And that has really helped my mindset a lot because I have small children, and what they hear me say, they're going to repeat. So the same thing with my friends and other acquaintances that I run into at the grocery store or wherever is something positive because there is not enough light and positivity in this world. And if I can be that one person who brings inspiration to a random stranger's life, then so be it. I'm going to do it because you know what? I have nothing better to do with my life but bring light. So I will do it.
I love that. And what I find so interesting, even in just hearing you talk, is you're not, you've definitely given sort of this distinction that you are not any of the things you were diagnosed with. That's not, I almost get this sense, not like uncomfortableness, but it's just like you just don't identify. And that's one thing I talk a lot on the podcast about is it's really, really hard to heal from something that you identify. And even talking about your words, if you were to say like my cancer or my PCOS or my infertility or whatever, you're owning that as part of who you are instead of whose you are. If
Correct.
you are a child, you are a child of God. We all are, right? And if we don't identify ourselves as that first and foremost,
Yep.
it is really hard to heal if it's part of who you are. And so I hope that someone that's listening to your story can just really take that positivity, that light, and apply it to their own life. And I know somebody's listening and they're going to want to connect with you and find out because you're radiant and glowing and you lost
Thank
over
you.
100 pounds. Like, probably everybody's
Almost.
going
Yeah,
to know
almost.
about how to do that. But tell us, how can we get in touch with you?
So you can check out my link. My main link is lifewave.com/KitKat06, and it's KITKAT because I'm Kathy with a K. So it's KitKat06, or I am on social media as Faithful Under Fire. Um, I guess my email and my phone number, just various ways. And I think you said you're going to have the links listed though, so they can always click on those too. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story. And is there anything else that you feel called to share that the Lord's showed you about your healing, your trust, your surrender in Him that you want to share with someone else?
There is a little saying that I have ingrained into my head, and it's a little bit humorous, but it's the one that it sticks with me, and it has everything to do with being a light and being a positive a force in other people's lives. It's get lit, stay stoked, be the light, share the light. And that's what I would that's my little motto every day is to just be the light and be a positive, a smile, because smiles are free, and a lot of things that you can do for people in this day and age is free. A hug is free, a kind word is free, being nice and graceful, having grace is free. So just being a good human is what we need more of.
I love that. And you're so, so, so right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and the light, because truly you just are glowing and incredible. And I appreciate you so, so much.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. This was awesome. We need to do it again.
For sure. For sure. Thanks for listening to Faith Over Pharma. If this helped cut through the noise, share it with a friend who always asks, do you think this actually works? And if you're ready to go deeper through immersive retreats, phototherapy, or the Rooted Reset, you'll find your next steps at susangladstein.com.
Thanks for listening.